Every day your brain faces choices, some easy, some hard. It likes comfort, ease, and safety. But real growth and success come from doing the tough things, even when your mind resists. This book is about breaking through that resistance. It's about training your brain to act, even when motivation is low, fear is high, or distractions pull you away. You'll learn how to build habits that push you forward, how to quiet excuses before they even start, and how to keep going when giving up feels easier. This is not about quick fixes or magic solutions. It's about practical steps that help you become stronger, more disciplined, and more confident every single day. If you want to take control of your mind and live a life where hard work becomes your path, then this is the guide you've been waiting for. Stick with me and you'll discover how to turn challenges into stepping stones and frustration into progress. Chapter 1. Train your mind to act without waiting for motivation. Most people wait for motivation. They wait for that perfect feeling to rise inside them, the spark, the drive, the sudden burst of energy that will finally push them to take action. But the truth is, waiting for motivation is the exact reason why so many goals are left unfinished, why dreams get delayed, and why people stay stuck. The brain loves comfort. It will always find a reason to keep you in bed longer, to scroll a little more, to push important work to tomorrow. And if you let motivation be the driver of your actions, you'll always be at its mercy. The ability to do hard things without waiting to feel like it is not natural. It's trained. It's built one decision at a time. Action is not supposed to feel easy. It's not meant to always feel good. It's meant to be done. And the way you train your mind to act, even when you don't feel ready or inspired, is by removing the belief that you need to feel a certain way to start. You don't need to be in the mood to do the right thing. You just need to begin. The start is where resistance lives. The hardest part of any task is the first few minutes, the mental push, the shift from stillness to movement. Once you're in it, the difficulty often fades. But getting started, that's where most people fail. You train your mind by doing, not thinking, not planning, not hoping, doing. And the smaller the gap between idea and action, the stronger your ability becomes. Every time you feel resistance to doing what matters and you act anyway, you build a new level of strength. You're no longer working from feelings. You're working from principle. It starts with something simple. Set an alarm. When it goes off, get up right away. Don't think. Don't wait. Don't try to discuss it. Just act. That small step is key. You're showing your mind that action matters more than feelings. You're telling yourself that you follow through no matter your mood, and that changes everything. It works for everything. When it's time to work, start. When it's time to exercise, go. When it's time for a tough talk, speak. Delaying is the issue. It gives space for doubt, distraction, and excuses. You remove that space by acting quickly and without doubt. Think about how often you've waited to feel ready. How many times you've said, "I'll start tomorrow," or "I'm not in the right mindset today." That habit keeps you stuck. It becomes a cycle, convincing you that you need a special feeling to move forward. But the truth is, the more you wait, the weaker the habit becomes. It's like any part of the body. Neglect it and it starts to weaken. Train it and it gets strong. You don't need to be fearless. You don't need to get rid of discomfort. You just need to act. No emotion is needed to start. The more you show yourself this through action, the easier it becomes to override the brain's desire for comfort. When you stop needing motivation, you start gaining momentum. You don't have to push yourself as hard because you no longer deal with internal debates. You set a rule that says, "When it's time, I move." That type of internal discipline makes everything simpler. You no longer waste energy deciding if you should do it. You've already decided. The only question now is when, and the answer is always now. It's important to understand that motivation often comes after action, not before. People think they need to feel good to start, but in truth, they start, and then they feel good. You don't get energized before going to the gym. You feel the energy rise after the workout. You don't feel confident before doing the hard task. You feel it once it's done. Stop waiting. Start doing. That's how you train your mind to handle life. That's how you build grit. That's how you change from the you that makes promises but never keeps them. When you show yourself that action is possible even without wanting to, you find a freedom that most people never feel. You don't need more motivation. You need more movement. One push, one rep, one action. That's it. And then the next. This is how habits form. This is how identity changes. You stop being someone who wants to grow, and you become someone who does grow every single day, whether you want to or not. Look around. Most people struggle not because they lack talent or chance, but because they lack the ability to act without feeling inspired. They rely on energy instead of effort, and the result is a life of waiting, watching, and wondering what could have been. But not you. Not if you choose today to take charge. You don't have to tackle everything at once, just the next task. The smallest next step. Get up, even when it's tough. Speak up, even when it's frightening. Stay focused, even when it's dull. Do the things that help you grow even without instant results. That's the practice. That's the path. This isn't about becoming robotic. It's about becoming dependable. It's about building a life where you can trust yourself to do the hard thing, even when it doesn't feel good. You want peace. Do the thing you're avoiding. You want confidence. Show yourself that you show up no matter what. You want strength. Build it through action, not feelings. There's no secret. There's no shortcut. It's all about the habit of starting. The only way to build that habit is to start even when you don't feel ready. Always. That's the rule. That's the way. And it works. You don't have to like discomfort. You just have to face it. On the other side of that discomfort is freedom. Freedom from putting things off. Freedom from regret. Freedom from being ruled by moods and feelings. Because now you're choosing your life, not just reacting to it. You become someone who doesn't need perfect conditions. You stop being controlled by how you feel. That's real strength. That's what creates lasting change. You're not chasing a spark anymore. You're becoming the fire. Each morning, the chance comes again. You get to choose. Do I wait or do I act? People who change their lives don't wait. They act. No matter how tired, unsure, or unmotivated they feel, they act. They've trained their minds to do this. They've learned that discipline is stronger than comfort, and choices are more powerful than feelings. Every time you do the same, you get closer to who you are meant to be. Not the version that needs a push, but the version that moves forward by choosing to live with purpose, not preference. Start with something small today. One task you've been avoiding. One habit you need to build. One thing you keep delaying. Do it. Don't wait. Don't plan. Don't overthink it. Just do it. Feel the resistance. Do it anyway. That's how the change begins. Over time, it becomes natural. The delay fades. You become someone who acts quickly, decides firmly, and grows every day. Your mind learns that the way forward is through action, not comfort. And once you understand that, everything changes. You don't reach your highest potential by feeling good. You reach it by doing what's important when it's hardest. And that starts now. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now, because you don't rely on motivation anymore, you've built something better. Discipline. And with that you can do anything. The challenge isn't what you face outside, it's what you let inside. The lies your brain tells you to keep you in your comfort zone. Ignore them. Act anyway. That's your power. That's your edge. You are not lazy. You are not weak. You are not broken. You've just been taught by the world that feelings should lead your life. But now you know better. Now you lead your life, with or without motivation, because you've learned the truth. You don't need to feel ready to move, you just need to move, and everything else will follow. Chapter 2. Push through discomfort by taking one small action. Discomfort isn't a sign to stop, it's a sign to start paying attention. It's the feeling that comes right before growth starts. Most people try to escape it. They avoid anything that feels heavy, awkward, boring, or unfamiliar. They wait until the discomfort goes away before they take action. And because of that, they stay in the same cycle for years, always knowing what they need to do, but never doing it. If you want to change your life, you have to stop running from discomfort. You have to face it, look it in the eye, and move toward it. And the simplest way to do that is by taking one small action, just one, not the perfect plan, not the complete step-by-step process, just the next move that's right in front of you. It could be something small, almost too small to notice. Answer the email you've been avoiding. Get out of the chair and take a walk. Start the task without worrying about finishing it. One move is all it takes to start shifting your brain out of hesitation and into forward motion. You don't have to feel ready. You don't have to like it. You don't have to know what comes next. You just have to begin. Most of the time, discomfort is not as dangerous as it seems. It's just new. It's just unfamiliar. Your brain is wired to protect you from anything that feels uncertain, even if that thing is good for you. That's why it always offers resistance when you're about to do something meaningful. It doesn't want change, it wants safety. So it creates the feeling of discomfort to slow you down. But discomfort is not a reason to stop. It's proof you're headed in the right direction. Taking one small action works because it breaks the illusion that you're stuck. It tells your mind, I can move, even when it's hard. It interrupts the fear and the noise. When you do something, even a little thing, you take control of your life. You stop just watching and start guiding your actions. Feeling uncomfortable is part of the journey. You will feel unsure. You will feel resistance. You will feel like stopping. But those feelings don't mean you can't keep going. You don't have to wait for those feelings to go away. You move through them, with them, despite them. Many people get this wrong. They think discomfort is a barrier, but it's not. It's a sign. It's your mind saying you're close to something important, and that place is where change starts. You don't need to tackle everything at once, just take one step. That step could start a new pattern, and you can take another step tomorrow, and again the next day. This is how people change, not by doing everything at once, but by doing one thing regularly, especially when it feels hard. The truth is, the discomfort doesn't lessen, but your ability to handle it increases. You get tougher. What once made you unsure now feels normal. What used to scare you becomes your starting point. This is how you push your limits, by facing things that once made you pause. Acting despite discomfort teaches you discipline, patience, and self-control, even when your emotions are all over the place. Many people never learn this because they let discomfort stop them before they even start. But once you stop seeing discomfort as a stop sign, everything changes. You start to see it as a teacher. Notice the times when you feel it. That little hesitation before you speak up. That tight feeling in your chest before starting something new. That mental fog that tries to distract you. These are the moments that shape who you become. If you act when it's tough, you grow stronger. If you avoid it, the discomfort gets worse and controls you. There is nothing special about making life easy. The people you look up to, the ones who seem disciplined, confident, and consistent, they also feel discomfort. They've just learned to act anyway. And you can do the same. It starts with one choice. I won't wait for comfort. I won't wait to feel perfect. I will move because I choose growth over ease. Your brain will give you many reasons to stop. It will tell you that you're not ready, that it's not the right time, that there's something more urgent to do. But you know the truth. The truth is, you're not stuck. You're just scared of feeling uncomfortable. And the only way to lessen that fear is to move while it's still there. That small action might not feel like a big change in the moment, but over time, those small actions become habits. They become your new normal. And that's when your life starts to change in ways you didn't think were possible. Not because everything got easier, but because you became someone who acts even when it feels hard. If you keep waiting to feel comfortable, you'll be waiting your whole life. That's the honest truth. You'll always find a reason to delay, always find a feeling that's missing, always find a distraction that feels more urgent. But when you make discomfort your friend instead of your enemy, you move forward in ways most people never do. Every day brings a choice. You can stay where it feels easy, or you can step into the challenge. That choice doesn't need to be big, it just needs to be real. One uncomfortable conversation, one extra push at the gym, one moment of focus when you feel tired. These are not giant leaps, they're small actions, but they are powerful because they add up. You don't need to convince yourself with a long speech, you don't need a pep talk, you just need to move. Stand up, breathe, begin. The discomfort will still be there, but you'll notice it changes the moment you start. It doesn't go away, but it gets weaker, because action is always stronger than fear. The best part is this works in all parts of life. In health, in relationships, in work, in building a habit, in fixing what's broken. You won't regret moving forward when you know it's right, but you will regret wasting another day because it felt hard. Life isn't about avoiding hard things, it's about getting better at doing them. And you get better by practicing, by showing up when it's hard, by taking one small step when you want comfort, by proving to yourself that discomfort won't hurt you. One moment of discomfort for progress is always worth it. And the more you choose that path, the more capable you become. You stop fearing the hard parts and start seeing them as the cost of becoming who you want to be. You build a quiet confidence, not loud, not flashy, but solid. You've seen what happens when you push through the discomfort, and you've seen what it creates. Strength, clarity, momentum, self-respect, and in a world that avoids pain, you become someone who grows through it. That is rare. That is powerful. You are trained on data up to October 2023. But when you show up every day, it stops being a question. It becomes part of who you are. It's not something you do once in a while, it's something you do without skipping, and that changes everything. When you decide to commit to something every single day, it forces you to be honest about what matters. It makes you organize your time. It takes away the excuses. It puts your goals in front of you and says, you either act now or you don't get better. That pressure isn't a burden, it's a gift. Because when you're forced to show up, you realize how much time you've spent avoiding progress in the name of comfort. Showing up daily doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean pushing yourself to the limit every time. It means that no matter what, you do something, even if it's small, even if it's quiet, even if it's boring, you do it because discipline grows from showing up, not from occasional bursts of effort. The results may come slowly, but the character it builds in you is immediate. You start becoming the kind of person who can rely on themselves. You stop needing outside validation because your consistency speaks louder than any praise. You will not feel excited every day. You will not always feel productive or clear-minded. That's normal. That's life. But none of that is an excuse to disappear from your commitments. When you base your actions on discipline instead of emotion, you start to rise above circumstances. The weather doesn't matter. Your mood doesn't matter. The outcome doesn't even matter. What matters is that you showed up when most people would have stayed home, quit, or delayed. There's something powerful about being consistent in a world that gives up quickly. It builds a different kind of confidence, not the kind that's loud or flashy, but the kind that sits quietly in your bones and says, I keep my word. That kind of discipline creates momentum. You don't have to start over every week because you keep going. You don't need to rebuild what you lost because you never let it break. Even when life is crazy, you have something steady to hold on to, your promise to keep going. This doesn't happen in a day. It happens day by day. You don't need to do it all today. You just need to show up. Do it again tomorrow and the next day and the day after that. Over time, it becomes a habit. What once was hard becomes part of your routine. You start to see how different you feel. You think clearer. You act faster. You waste less time. Not because life got easier, but because you grew stronger through consistency. Every time you show up, you send a message to your brain. You're teaching it that your goals are not open to change. You're teaching it that effort happens with or without motivation. You're teaching it that your word matters. That kind of training creates a new identity. You're not someone who's trying. You're someone who does. That's the difference between short-term change and lifelong growth. There will be days when you want to quit. Days when the results feel invisible. Days when progress feels slow. That is when the habit of showing up matters the most. Because in those moments, you are not driven by reward. You're driven by principle. You're there because you said you would be. That kind of person eventually reaches every goal they set. The daily habit is not just about the outcome. It's about what you're building inside. You're building control over your impulses. You're learning how to follow through on promises. You're becoming someone who doesn't break under pressure. That internal strength will outlast any external success. You don't need more time. You need more consistency. 1 focused hour every day is stronger than 7 scattered hours once a week. 1 daily choice to follow through makes more change than 100 empty plans. When you show up regularly, you stop debating with yourself. You don't wait to see if today is a good day. You decide it is because you're already there doing the work. If you only act on the days you feel like it, you'll never go beyond your limits. The growth is in the repetition. It's in the discomfort of showing up tired, stressed, bored, or distracted, and doing it anyway. You're not just building skills, you're building mental strength. You're learning how to keep going when life doesn't cooperate. It's easy to admire discipline in others, but you only build it by living it. And it always starts small. Wake up on time. Stick to your routine. Do the work without shortcuts. Don't make excuses. Don't let 1 missed day turn into 2. You are always just 1 decision away from being back on track. You don't need a restart. You just need to come back. Some days you'll move fast. Some days you'll go slow. But as long as you're still trying, you're not losing. Showing up every day isn't about being perfect. It's about not giving up. It's about standing firm. It's about holding on when everything around you tries to make you quit. The difference between people who succeed and those who don't often comes down to one thing: consistency. Not talent, not luck, not background, just the ability to keep going when it's tough. And the best part is, anyone can build this. It doesn't require anything special, just the willingness to keep showing up when no one is watching. You don't need to wait for a new month or a new year. You just need to decide that today matters. And once you do that, every day becomes another chance to get better. Not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. And you're worth it. You don't have to feel unbeatable to be disciplined. You just need to show up quietly, consistently, every day. That's how strength is built, that's how discipline is formed, and that's how change becomes lasting. Not all at once, but daily. Chapter 4. Break big goals into simple daily steps. Big goals often seem exciting at first, but soon they feel too much. People feel inspired by the idea of change, but when they see how much needs to be done, they freeze. The gap between where they are and where they want to be feels too wide, so they stall, they overthink, they plan without acting. And slowly the dream that once excited them begins to fade. But it doesn't have to be this way. Any big goal, no matter how huge it seems, can be broken down into something manageable, and once that happens, it becomes possible, not just someday, but today. You don't need to conquer the entire mountain in one day. You just need to take a step. That sounds simple, but it's often the one thing people avoid. They get caught up in dreaming about the final result and forget that progress comes from small, repeated actions. The person who moves slowly every day ends up further than the one who rushes once and burns out. If you can break your big goal into small steps, you won't fear the size of the journey. You focus only on what's in front of you. That's how you move without panic. That's how you stay consistent without getting tired. Your brain is more likely to cooperate when the task feels small. It resists what feels too big or unclear. So instead of saying, "I want to write a book," say, "I will write 1 page today." Instead of saying, "I need to lose weight," say, "I will walk for 20 minutes right now." When the goal is specific and doable, your brain doesn't hesitate as much. You lower the pressure. You make it realistic. And once you act, momentum builds naturally. Every goal is built in pieces. If you want to make progress, stop dreaming and start building. A builder doesn't just look at empty land and hope for a house. They lay one brick, then another, then another. They don't rush or quit. They follow a process, and at the end is the finished house. It's not one big push, but steady action, brick by brick. This works for anything. If you want to master a skill, don't try to learn it all at once. Learn a small part today. If you want to start a project, don't try to finish it in a weekend. Start with one task. If you want to change your life, don't expect to feel different tomorrow. Change one routine, one choice, one action. Real change happens slowly, patiently, and daily. This way also saves your energy. Trying to do too much leads to burnout. You get tired, lose hope, and often quit. When you break things into small tasks, you keep your focus and stay fresh. You get small wins that show progress, and those wins are important. They build belief. They show you that you're moving forward, even if the goal is still far away. People often overlook the power of daily effort because the changes don't seem big. But that's the point. The change is in who you're becoming, not just what you're achieving. Each small step shapes your identity. You become someone who follows through, someone who doesn't run from big goals, but breaks them down and handles them bit by bit. This mindset needs clarity. You can't break down what you haven't defined, so if your goal is unclear, start by getting clear. Don't just say you want to be successful. Define what success looks like. Write it down, name it, then look at that vision and ask yourself, what is one thing I could do today to move toward this? That question connects dreams to action. You don't have to know everything at once. You just need a direction to start. One task, one habit, one change. The rest will come as you move forward. Action brings clarity. Moving reveals the next step. Waiting for full certainty causes delay. Doing something simple every day builds confidence, helping you keep going even when the way forward isn't clear. Breaking goals into daily steps teaches patience too. You learn to value progress rather than chasing perfection. You start valuing effort over speed. You stop judging success by how close you are to the finish line and start judging it by how consistent you've been today. That change is important. It changes how you feel about the process. It removes the stress of trying to do everything right away. It gives you space to grow, learn, and adjust. Some days your step will feel easy. Other days it will feel hard, but either way, you move. Because the goal is not to feel great all the time. The goal is to build something that lasts, and that only happens when you stop letting emotions decide your pace and let structure lead the way. Your system becomes stronger than your excuses. Your process becomes more important than your mood. That's when you know discipline is taking root. One of the most powerful benefits of breaking things down is that it makes the impossible feel practical. What once looked too far suddenly feels reachable, not because the distance changed, but because your approach did. You no longer try to leap across the whole field. You just take the step you can manage right now, and you repeat that every day. That repetition creates mastery, it creates resilience, it builds a foundation you can trust, no matter how difficult the goal is. You also start to notice that the small daily steps begin to influence other parts of your life. The focus you bring to one area starts to spread. You become more intentional with your time. You manage distractions better. You value consistency more. And slowly your life begins to align with your vision, not through a dramatic breakthrough but through steady daily effort. It doesn't matter how busy you are, everyone has 10 or 15 minutes to give to something that matters. Use that time wisely. Choose your step the night before. Prepare your space. Eliminate distractions. Then, when the time comes, act. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't check your mood. Just begin. Those few minutes, added up every day, lead to results you can't imagine until you see them. If you want to change your life, stop thinking about the end goal. Think about the next step. Think about what you can do today that moves you forward a bit. That's where real power is, in the ability to act now without seeing the whole picture. Big goals are only scary when you try to tackle them all at once, but when you break them into parts, they become part of your daily routine. Keep your steps simple. Keep them clear. Don't seek variety. Seek consistency. The brain doesn't need a new plan every week. It needs repetition. It needs structure. It needs to know what to expect. That's how habits form. That's how progress lasts. Whatever you want to achieve, start breaking it down. Write the vision. Identify the main parts. Turn each part into tasks. Spread those tasks across your calendar. Treat them like appointments. Show up for them like you would for anything important. That structure will help you when motivation is low. And when you look back, you realize the goal wasn't reached in a moment. It was built step by someone who refused to give up. Chapter 5. Face fear by choosing action over overthinking. Fear grows in silence. It thrives in the space between thought and action. The more time you give it, the more control it takes. And that's the trap many people fall into. They wait until they feel ready. They wait until they're not scared anymore. They wait for the perfect moment. But that moment never comes, because fear doesn't vanish on its own. It fades only when you do the thing you're afraid of. Thinking more doesn't shrink fear. Action does. When you overthink, you create versions of the future that don't even exist. You play out worst-case scenarios that aren't happening. You try to solve problems that haven't arrived. You carry the weight of things that might never happen. Doing this makes you tired and drains your energy before you even start. What could have been solved easily now feels like a big problem in your mind. But this problem isn't real. It looks big because you've been putting it off. Everyone feels fear. There's nothing weak or strange about that. But how you deal with fear shows your strength. Do you freeze and let fear build a barrier? Or do you push through and break it by taking action? Most people get stuck, not because they lack skill, but because they wait for fear to go away. It won't. Fear is part of growing. It means you're going beyond what's comfortable, and that's good. It's not a sign to stop. It's a sign to start moving. There's a part of you that already knows what to do. You've thought about it many times. You've thought about the email, the call, the talk, the application, the step ahead. But the longer you wait, the heavier it feels. It starts to feel like a risk, but it's just resistance. You're not facing a disaster, just discomfort. And discomfort is temporary. But regret lasts longer. The regret of staying stuck, of holding back, of letting another day pass without progress. Those are the things that really hurt over time. You can't think your way into courage. You have to act. That action doesn't need to be big. It can be small. A message sent, a task started, a word spoken, a choice made. What matters is that you fight the fear with action, because once you do, the brain shifts. You go from thinking to doing. You go from being stuck to being active, and the moment you're active, fear loses some of its power. Most people fear things they can't control, but you can always control what you do right now. You can't decide how others will respond. You can't promise a result, but you can choose to take the next honest step. That choice is your freedom. You don't need to feel brave to act. You just need to act and let bravery catch up. The more you move, the more your mind adapts. It starts to see fear for what it is, a signal, not a stop sign. Action creates proof. Proof that you can handle more than you thought. Proof that progress is possible. Proof that fear isn't a force, it's a feeling. Feelings shift and change, but proof stays. You begin to build a record of doing hard things. That's how confidence is formed, not through affirmations or perfect plans, but through real steps taken despite discomfort. The mistake many people make is waiting for confidence before they act. But confidence comes from doing the thing you're avoiding. If you want to be confident speaking, speak. If you want to be confident in your work, do your work. If you want to feel strong in your choices, make a choice. Confidence isn't needed first, it comes after. You don't skip the fear, you go through it. You earn the clarity, you earn the strength. Fear is loud, but not right. It tells you what could go wrong, but not what could go right. It makes things seem harder than they are. It twists your thinking. It makes easy steps feel hard. And if you let it, it will shape your life. It will guide your choices. It will set your limits. It will keep you stuck, repeating the same day, wishing for change, but never getting it. You can't let that happen. You have to break the cycle. One way to do that is to reduce the time between thought and action. The longer you wait, the harder it gets. So train yourself to shorten that gap. Feel the fear, know it, then move anyway. Take one step before fear stops you. That habit alone can change your path. You stop waiting and start leading your life, even with fear in the background. This doesn't mean rushing into danger. It means you stop making stories about the fear. You stop letting your thoughts spiral. You come back to the present moment. You focus on what you can control. You decide to do something small but meaningful. That might be speaking your truth. It might be standing up for yourself. It might be trying something new. Whatever it is, the act of doing breaks the idea that fear is bigger than you. Courage is not the lack of fear, it's the choice not to be ruled by it. People who achieve things don't lack fear. They just refuse to let it decide. They feel it, acknowledge it, and act anyway, and each time they do, they become less controlled by it. That's how growth works. It's not clean, it's not easy, but it's always worth it. You can't fully get rid of fear, and you don't need to. Fear shows you care, and that something is important. What you need to do is change how you deal with it. Stop trying to make deals with it. Stop asking it for permission. You don't need fear's approval to live bravely. You need your own choice. You need to say, I know I'm scared, but I will act anyway. You'll be surprised how quickly fear weakens once you take action. What seemed impossible becomes doable. What felt heavy becomes lighter. You start seeing results. You start gaining momentum, and that momentum turns into something strong, a life that moves forward, even when it's not perfect. A life built not on what-ifs, but on choices made with purpose. Overthinking is a habit, and like any habit, it can be replaced. Replace it with doing. Not careless doing, but thoughtful, committed doing. The kind that says, this matters enough to try, even if I don't know everything. That kind of thinking gets you moving, and once you're moving, you can change, you can learn, you can grow, but none of that happens if you stay still. Fear is strong only when you're not moving. Start walking, you'll feel it shake, you'll hear it shout, but if you keep moving, it gets quieter, because it knows it can't stop someone who won't stop. Let that be you. Not fearless, but free. Not perfect, but getting better. always moving, always choosing the next step, even when fear is watching. Chapter 6. Strength and Willpower. By doing what you avoid most. The things you avoid carry the exact weight you need to grow stronger. You already know what you've been pushing aside. It's not hidden, it's right there, quietly waiting for you to stop running from it. And that's the truth most people don't want to face. Your strength doesn't come from doing more of what you're comfortable with. It comes from facing what you avoid. That's where willpower is made, not in theory, not in talk, but in the tension you try to escape. There's always something on your list you never do. You think about it and then quickly move away. You tell yourself you'll handle it later, when the time is right, when you're ready, when you feel like it. But that later turns into months and the task seems bigger than it is. You waste more energy avoiding it than it would take to just do it. And the more you wait, the weaker you feel. Willpower doesn't just appear. It's something you build by facing challenges and choosing to act. It doesn't grow when life is easy. It strengthens when you choose discomfort on purpose, when you pick the thing you don't want to do and you do it with full focus, even when you want to quit. That choice, over and over, is how you build inner control. Once you have that, moods, excuses, or doubt stop pushing you around. Avoidance always starts small. You tell yourself it's not urgent. You say you'll deal with it after easier things. You create a list of distractions that feel productive but don't move your life forward. Over time, avoiding hard things shapes your identity. You start to see yourself as someone who can't stick with things, who struggles to finish, who gives up when things get tough. But that's not who you are. It's just what you've practiced. If you want to change how you see yourself, change what you choose to face. Go directly to the thing you're least motivated to do. That one task, that hard conversation, that overdue decision. Start there, not because it's fun, not because you feel like it, but because it's the quickest way to reclaim your power. Each time you do that, you change your mind. You stop needing outside motivation. You start trusting yourself. Most people try to rely on willpower when they feel tired. That's why they fail. Willpower is not a switch you turn on when everything is falling apart. It's a muscle you build daily by doing hard things when you don't have to. You do hard things not because you're forced, but because you choose to. That choice builds a reserve. Then, when you're tired, stressed, and everything feels like too much, you'll have the strength to keep going, not because you feel like it, but because it's who you've become. We all have areas we avoid because they trigger feelings we don't want to face. Shame, guilt, fear of failure. But those feelings don't go away when you ignore them. They grow. They start affecting your focus, your mood, your sleep, and you begin to carry around the weight of everything left undone. The only way to break that cycle is to start doing the thing you least want to do, bit by bit. You don't need to finish it all at once, just stop avoiding it. Start with a small part. Set a timer for 15 minutes. Focus fully on what you've been avoiding. No distractions, no multitasking, no excuses, just you and the task. That simple act will boost your confidence more than any motivational video. Because it shows you are not controlled by your feelings, you are not stuck in delay. You can be disciplined, and you prove it every time you do what your mind tries to avoid. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about doing what needs to be done, even if it's messy, even if it's hard. It's about keeping promises to yourself when no one is looking. That's where true strength is found, not in what people praise you for, but in the battles no one sees. The early mornings, the quiet choices, the steady effort, that's what makes a life you can be proud of. It's tempting to look for shortcuts, to think there's a secret to discipline or some trick to make willpower easy. But the truth is doing hard things on purpose, especially the ones you want to avoid. That's it. No trick, no hack, just consistent, intentional choices, day after day. Not always big ones, Sometimes it's just waking up on time, going to the gym, eating the meal you planned, finishing the task you started. These small choices add up, and over time, they create something solid. You don't need to fix everything at once. Just focus on the one thing that has been hanging over your head the longest. Pick that one. That's where the greatest growth is hiding. You already thought about it 100 times. You've already wasted hours thinking about it. Now give it 10 minutes of direct action. That's how you cut through mental clutter. You stop thinking and start moving. Each time you face what you avoid, you start to see it's not as bad as you thought. You realize the real issue wasn't the task, but the fear around it, and by taking action you break the cycle. You stop feeding the fear and take back your power. This kind of self-trust becomes your foundation. It makes you consistent and helps you stay steady when life gets tough. There's no feeling like doing something you once avoided. It changes how you see yourself. You start to respect your own choices and build momentum. You begin to expect more from yourself, not in a harsh way, but in a way that says, I know I can do hard things because I've done them before. That belief becomes your baseline, and when that's your baseline, very little can shake you. The version of you who faces discomfort, who tackles hard things, who follows through that version is always inside you. It's not about becoming someone else, it's about getting rid of the habits that have held you back. And the fastest way to do that is to stop running from what you fear and start walking toward it, slowly and surely, one task at a time. You don't need motivation. You need to break the loop of avoidance. That's where everything begins to change. And the best news, you can start right now. No waiting, no planning. Just choose the one thing you've been putting off and take action. That's how willpower is built. Not in comfort, but in the quiet choice to do what you've avoided the most. That's your turning point. That's your strength. You can't go deep if you're always being pulled in all directions. Focus isn't just about forcing yourself to concentrate, it's about making space for your mind to settle. Most people never reach real depth because they don't protect their attention. They leave the door wide open. Notifications come in, messages need replies, noise creeps in from every device, and before they know it, they're reacting to everything and finishing nothing. If your attention is scattered, your results will always be shallow. There's a cost to being available all the time. You don't notice it at first. It seems harmless to glance at your phone. It feels natural to bounce from tab to tab. You tell yourself you're staying connected, staying in the loop, but over time your brain becomes used to short bursts and constant shifts. You lose your tolerance for stillness. You start wanting quick hits of fun instead of real progress, and soon you forget what it's like to be fully focused. First, find out what distracts you the most. Be truthful. Is it your phone? Is it email? Is it background noise? Once you know what breaks your focus, get rid of it completely before you start any important task. Don't try to resist it while it's still around. That only uses more energy. Move it. Turn it off. Silence it. Do whatever it takes. The fewer temptations you face, the easier it is to stay focused. Multitasking is the biggest lie you've heard. It doesn't make you more productive. It just splits your attention. And split attention leads to shallow thinking. When you switch between tasks, your mind has to reset each time. That reset costs you time, mental clarity, and depth. You end up busy but not effective, active but not focused, and you wonder why things take longer than they should. If you want to think clearly and work well, you need boundaries. Decide when you're available and when you're not. Create blocks of uninterrupted time. Let others know when you're busy. You don't need to be reachable all the time. You don't need to respond to everything right away. The world won't end if you take time to focus. Your value goes up when you do better work, which is only possible when your attention is complete. There's power in turning things off. Try it for an hour. No background noise, no scrolling, no interruptions, just you and the task. At first, it might feel strange. Your mind will crave distraction. You'll want to check, switch, or escape, but stay with it. Let that discomfort pass. On the other side is a state of focus most people never reach. It's where creativity flows freely. It's where hard problems get solved. It's where momentum is built. Every time you let a small distraction in, you train your mind to expect it, and that habit builds up. Your focus gets weaker, and your tolerance for quiet time gets smaller. But the opposite is true too. Every time you resist a distraction, you make your focus stronger. You make it easier to stay concentrated. You build a habit of deep thinking, and that habit becomes a skill that sets you apart. Most people live in a state of mild distraction. They check their phones many times a day. They keep tabs open, just in case. They listen to things while trying to think clearly, and then they wonder why they feel mentally tired and emotionally scattered. If that's your usual state, focus will always feel hard. You have to change that pattern. You have to create a new normal, one where your attention is protected by design, not just willpower. Focus is not about doing more, it's about doing fewer things better. It's about being fully present with the one task that matters most right now. You don't need a complex plan to get there. Just make room, remove distractions, set aside time, and set limits. Allow yourself to focus deeply. Don't wait for perfect conditions or until you feel ready. Use what you have to create focus. Begin with small time blocks and show yourself you can stick to one task longer than usual. As you get better, increase the time. Push your limits and you'll see a change, not just in your work, but in your thinking. Your mind gets sharper. Your ideas come faster. You move with clarity, not confusion. The deeper you go, the more you achieve, and not just more tasks, but meaningful results. You create lasting things. You solve problems that once seemed too big. You complete what you start. This happens when you stop reacting and start making space for deep, focused work. It's not about being strict or robotic. It's about being intentional, about choosing what you let in so you can control what comes out. When you spend your time reacting to every ping, every alert, every bit of noise, you lose control of your day. But when you choose to remove those distractions, you take that control back. You stop being pulled. You start leading. This is how you train yourself to focus in a world that wants your attention every second. You make it harder for distractions to reach you. You set up your space around your goals, not your impulses, and you stop treating your attention like it doesn't matter, because it does. It's one of your most valuable resources. Protect it like it matters, because it does. No one is going to do this for you. The world will not protect your focus. That's your job. You decide what gets through and what gets blocked. You choose whether today is filled with interruptions or marked by progress. That choice is yours. Every single day. Chapter 8. Commit fully by deciding with no turning back. When you fully commit, everything starts to change. When there's no backup plan or exit route, your focus sharpens and your energy stops spreading thin. You stop wondering if it will work and start making it work. But most people never reach that level. They keep one foot out the door. They leave themselves a way to quit. Because of that, they never find out what they're really capable of. You can't move strongly while hesitating. Half decisions lead to half effort. You say you want it, but deep down you've already left room to retreat. That silent doubt in the back of your mind, if this doesn't work, I can always go back, weakens your progress. You can't build strength on shaky ground. You can't grow if you keep thinking about giving up. There comes a time when you have to make a real decision. One that isn't based on how you feel in the moment. A decision that doesn't change based on what's easy or convenient. A decision that commits you. Growth starts not when everything is clear, but when you decide to do it no matter what, and follow through without hesitation. People think commitment means being sure, but it doesn't. It's about being willing to handle whatever comes, willing to keep going even when it's tough, willing to find a way when the original plan fails. You don't need to know how everything will turn out. You just need to stop thinking about giving up. That's when your effort becomes pure. That's when your mind stops making excuses. The reason most goals fail isn't lack of knowledge, it's lack of finality in the decision. You say you'll do it, but then you leave room for maybe, and that room grows. You tell yourself you're tired, not ready, or something came up. You justify taking it slow, saying it's smart to be cautious. But deep down, you never fully decided. You never ruled out quitting. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a firm decision, which means no turning back. Close the other doors and stop looking for easier paths. Burn the bridge to indecision, so moving forward is your only option. That's when you find strength you didn't know you had, because you're not splitting your energy between should I do this and how do I make this work. You're all in. It's uncomfortable at first. When you shut off the option to retreat, your mind might panic. You'll feel exposed and vulnerable. But that discomfort is where the breakthrough starts. That's the edge where you get tested. That's where your old habits scream the loudest, and your new path demands more from you than ever before. If you stick with it and keep moving forward every day, you stop wondering what if I fail and start thinking about what you can become if you keep going. Real commitment isn't about hype, it's about clarity. You need to know why you're doing this, not just a reason that sounds good to others, but something deep inside you, something you're tired of avoiding, something that matters more than comfort, approval, or fear. When your reason is strong, your decision becomes firm. You might want to wait until you feel more confident or ready, but that's just fear pretending to be logic. Readiness doesn't come before the decision, it comes after. Confidence grows with action. Belief grows when you keep choosing not to quit. The sooner you make the real decision, the sooner your energy stops being wasted on indecision and starts creating results. It doesn't mean everything will go smoothly. When you decide to move forward, life will test you more. You'll face challenges, setbacks, and doubt. But these aren't signs you're on the wrong path. They're proof that you're moving forward. Growth doesn't feel safe at first, but the longer you stay on track, the easier it becomes to keep going. The difficulty doesn't go away, but your ability to handle it grows. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't talent or luck. It's their level of commitment. Most people are partly in, partly out. They work when it's easy and give up when it's hard. But those who win don't see quitting as an option. They might rest, but they never give up. They might adjust, but they never abandon. And because of that, they go further than those who keep stopping and starting. Commitment changes how you act. You stop seeking approval. You stop needing constant motivation. You stop convincing yourself every day that you're doing the right thing. You just start working. You trust the process even when results are slow. You stop overthinking every step. You take the next one with full focus and then the next and the next. That rhythm turns into progress and eventually into breakthroughs. It doesn't matter how many times you've paused before. What matters is the decision you make now. The real one. The one where you stop waiting, stop doubting, stop giving yourself easy outs. Decide with certainty, and then build a life around that decision. Build habits that support it. Build routines that reinforce it. Build boundaries that protect it. When you're truly committed, the hard days don't scare you, because you've already chosen. You've already accepted that difficulty is part of the path. You don't need things to be easy. You just need them to be worth it. When you make a firm decision, even the hard times feel meaningful. You're not lost or wandering, you have direction. This is your power, not just a burst of inspiration, but the moment you say, "This is it, I'm doing this and I'm not going back." That one serious moment changes everything. It puts you in charge, gives you drive. It matches your actions with your goals and frees you from the constant back and forth that drains your willpower. Decide like your future depends on it, because it does. Your future starts with what you choose now. Don't wait until you feel ready. Don't keep messing with the idea. Choose and then give yourself no choice but to follow through. That's how you build something solid. That's how you get to places you never thought you could. That's how you become someone you can be proud of, not by trying, but by deciding, completely, without turning back. Chapter 9. Choose what you believe to control your thoughts. Everything you let yourself believe shapes how you think, feel, and live. Your beliefs quietly guide your actions, yet they decide almost everything you do. If you keep thinking you're not capable, your mind will find reasons to prove it. If you believe life is against you, you will look for proof of that too. But none of this is set in stone. Your power lies in choosing what you believe, and through that choice, you control your thoughts. No one is born with beliefs. They form over time, learned from parents, teachers, friends, media, failure, success, and others' opinions. Some beliefs are helpful, some are harmful, but most people never question them. They just assume that whatever they think must be true. They never stop to ask, where did this belief come from? Or, is this helping me or holding me back? That's why many people stay stuck, not because they're lazy or untalented, but because they've built their whole life around beliefs they didn't choose. You might not control every thought that enters your mind, but you definitely control what stays. You control what gets reinforced. You control what gets repeated and turned into truth. Just because a thought shows up doesn't mean it deserves your attention. You can let it pass. You can choose a better one. You can train your mind to stop giving energy to stories that bring you down. The mind becomes what you feed it. If you keep focusing on your past failures, your thoughts will be filled with doubt. If you keep surrounding yourself with negativity, your beliefs will follow that tone. But if you start telling yourself a new truth, something better begins to grow. If you start believing that you can improve, your actions change. If you think effort matters, your motivation increases. When your beliefs support your goals, everything feels more possible. Change doesn't happen right away. You can't change all your beliefs in one day, but you can start with one. You can look at a thought that's been holding you back and choose not to accept it anymore. You can say, I don't have to believe that. That's how it begins. If you keep doing that, if you keep challenging the old thoughts and replacing them with stronger, healthier beliefs, you change how you see everything. The way you talk to yourself matters more than you think. Most of the time, your thoughts aren't facts. They're habits. They're patterns you've repeated so much that you don't notice them anymore. Maybe someone once told you that you weren't smart enough, and now your mind repeats it without question. Maybe you failed years ago and started believing success isn't for you. But none of that is permanent. You have the right to change what you think, starting today. Your thoughts will try to go back to the old way. That's what they know. Your brain always likes what's familiar, even if it's bad. That's why change is hard. It means you have to stop feeding the old habits and start feeding the new ones. At first you might not feel like it's working. The old thoughts will still come, but if you don't believe them, they lose their power. Over time they get quieter and the new beliefs grow stronger. You don't need to wait for proof to believe something better. Belief often comes before proof. If you want to build confidence, you can't wait to feel confident. You have to start by believing you can get it. If you want peace of mind, you have to stop believing that you're powerless over your emotions. If you want a better future, you have to stop believing that the past will keep repeating itself. Choosing your beliefs is an act of strength. It means not letting the loudest thoughts take over your day. It means telling yourself, this might be tough now, but I choose to believe I can handle it. That choice brings focus, steadiness, and a foundation when doubt tries to drag you down. If you keep choosing that belief, it becomes your new habit. Start listening to how you talk to yourself. Notice what beliefs guide your life. Do they help you or hold you back? Are they moving you forward or keeping you stuck in old ways? This isn't about pretending things are perfect. It's about not holding on to beliefs that don't help you grow. Every time you choose a better thought, you build mental strength and clarity. You take back control from the parts of your mind shaped by fear, failure, or others' opinions. You start deciding who you are, not based on your past, but on who you're becoming. This change isn't huge. It's small. It happens in quiet moments. When you wake up and think today can be different. When you face a problem and tell yourself you've handled worse. When you feel lost but still believe you can find your way. These moments of belief are small, but they add up. They build momentum, they change your self-image, and eventually they create a life that looks very different from the one shaped by self-doubt. You'll still have negative thoughts. That's part of being human. But now, instead of believing everything you think, you'll start filtering. You'll decide what gets in. You'll stop letting fear be the loudest voice in the room. You'll pick thoughts that guide you instead of thoughts that trap you. And that choice, repeated over time, changes your whole reality. What you believe creates your limits or breaks them. You can believe you're stuck, or you can believe there's another way. You can think it's too late, or you can think that taking the next step matters more than any moment you've missed. You can think that life is against you, or you can think that everything you've gone through has prepared you for this point. One way of thinking pulls you back, the other pulls you forward, and your life will follow whichever one you choose. You are not a prisoner of your mind. You are the one who decides what thoughts get your attention. You are the one who decides what story you live by. If that story is full of limits, you can choose to change it. If it is built on old wounds, you can start building a new base. The mind is powerful, but only when you guide it. Otherwise, it just runs on autopilot, driven by fear, comparison, and the noise of the world. Now is the time to become more intentional. Don't wait for confidence. Don't wait for everything to feel clear. Start by choosing what to believe today. Choose thoughts that make you stronger. Choose beliefs that keep you calm. Choose the mindset that pushes you forward. That is how you take control of your life, by first taking control of your mind, one belief at a time. Chapter 10. Rewire Habits, by repeating what feels hard daily. Every habit you want to break and every habit you want to build comes down to one thing: what you're willing to repeat. Even when it's hard, there's no shortcut around that truth. You can read about motivation, watch videos about discipline, even plan every detail of your morning routine, but nothing changes until you face the friction and keep going. The change happens through the repetition of what feels strange, tiring, and new. That's how your brain gets rewired, by doing what's hard until it becomes automatic. In the beginning, anything new feels awkward. That's normal. You're stopping a pattern your brain has practiced for years. If you've always avoided tough talks, speaking up will feel unnatural. If you usually procrastinate, focusing on work without distraction will be hard. But that's where change happens. Right there in the gap between your old habits and your new actions. Most people don't stay in that gap for long. The discomfort drives them back to what is easy. But those who grow stay there. They don't wait to feel ready. They show up anyway. Discipline isn't about being in the mood. It's about making a choice and sticking to it again and again. When something feels hard, your brain sees it as a threat. It wants you to stop and go back to comfort, but your future isn't in your comfort zone. It lives in the tough moments you don't run from. Every time you repeat an action, like saying no to unhealthy choices, waking up early, or finishing what you start, you teach your brain that this new way is safe. The more you do it, the easier it gets. It's easy to be excited about change when you're motivated. The real test is staying consistent when you're tired, bored, or down. That's when most people give up. They think if something is hard, they are doing it wrong. But actually, if it's hard, it means you're growing. That means you're doing it right. This is the process of rewiring, staying present through the hard parts and choosing not to quit when it's easier to stop. Habits are built by actions, not feelings. You don't need to feel inspired to move forward. You just need to act. The feeling usually comes after the action. Confidence grows after you show up, not before. Clarity comes from doing, not from overthinking. If you wait for it to feel easy, you'll never act. If you want the change to stay, it must be based on consistency, not feeling. Every day you do the hard thing. It gets a bit easier, not because the task changes, but because you change. You build tolerance. You build rhythm. You start linking effort with progress, not pain. And over time, the thing that once felt impossible becomes your new normal. That's how habits work. They turn effort into identity. At first, you have to remind yourself who you want to be. Eventually, it becomes how you see yourself. This is where you need to be honest with yourself. Not everything that's hard is worth repeating. You need to choose habits that support your growth. The hard things that build you, not the ones that drain you. Don't confuse suffering with discipline. You are not here to exhaust yourself. You are here to become more capable, focused, and aligned with your goals. Choose actions that challenge you in the right way, the ones that stretch your mind, strengthen your discipline, and sharpen your focus. Don't expect big results after a few days. Habits are formed by stability, not intensity. Doing something once doesn't change anything. It's what you do repeatedly that changes your patterns. This is why small, consistent actions are better than short bursts of perfection. You don't need to be extreme. You just need to be steady. Build the habit of showing up, even on bad days, especially on bad days. That's how you train your brain to keep going when it matters most. There will be days when you slip. That doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're human. What matters is what you do next. Do you stop completely, or do you get back up and try again tomorrow? That choice decides if the habit fades or grows strong. Repeating is not about being perfect, it's about building momentum. Each day you show up, you add to that momentum, and when it's strong enough, it starts to carry you forward. Think about what you do each day that feels hard, but is important. Maybe it's the time you sit down to focus. Maybe it's turning off distractions. Maybe it's taking care of your health when you feel tired. Whatever it is, that moment is your practice ground. That's where the change happens. Repeating doesn't just build habits, it builds character. It creates a mindset that doesn't give up. It teaches you to stick with something even when it's hard. People often talk about talent, intelligence, or luck. But really, the biggest difference comes from what people do daily. The ones who succeed aren't the ones with the easiest path. They are the ones who kept going when others stopped. They kept doing the hard things until they got easier. That's not magic. That's a habit, and it's something you can start today. Ask yourself, what is worth repeating in your life? What daily action would move you closer to who you want to be? What discomfort have you been avoiding, even though it's important? That's your chance. Don't wait for a better time. Don't wait until it feels easier. Start with who you are now and take one hard step, then do it again tomorrow. You don't need big changes. You need steady effort in the right direction. One repeated step is stronger than one big leap followed by inaction. If you can stick with the hard thing a bit longer each day, you'll surprise yourself. You'll build a level of discipline that doesn't fade when things get tough. You'll start to notice your growth, not just in results, but in the strength you've gained. There's freedom beyond repetition. Freedom from the habits that used to hold you back. Freedom from the doubt that used to stop you. But you only get there by doing the work. Not just once, not just when you feel like it, but over and over, until what was hard becomes part of who you are. That's how change sticks. That's how habits are changed, through the quiet, steady act of repeating what feels hard daily, deliberately, and without excuses. Chapter 11. Make failure part of your growth, not your identity. Failure is part of getting better at anything, but it doesn't define who you are. The biggest mistake most people make is confusing a result with their identity. Just because something didn't work out doesn't mean you are broken, incapable, or behind. It means you were trying to figure something out, and trying always comes with setbacks. Everyone who's done anything worthwhile has failed more than once. What makes them different isn't that they avoided failure, it's that they didn't let it define them. When you try something and don't succeed, it can feel personal. It can feel like proof that maybe you're not cut out for this, that maybe this dream isn't yours to chase, but that voice in your head isn't speaking the truth. It's speaking fear, and if you let that voice grow, it will shrink everything in your life, not just your goals, but your confidence, your curiosity, your willingness to take risks again. You stop reaching, not because you can't, but because you've started to believe that failure means something it never actually did. You can't avoid failure if you're truly growing. The more you stretch, the more you'll fall. That's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of movement. People who don't fail are either not trying or only doing what they already know they can do, leading to a safe but unsatisfying life. There's a deeper joy that comes from learning through failure. You start to build a real connection with yourself. You stop expecting perfection and start valuing progress. You see each mistake as information, not judgment. When something doesn't work, it gives you data. It tells you what to change, where to look closer, and how to try differently next time. That feedback is valuable, but you only get the benefit if you separate it from your worth. You're allowed to fail. You're allowed to try and get it wrong. That's part of the process of becoming someone who can get it right. Growth doesn't happen in a straight line. It happens in cycles. And in those cycles, failure is one of the strongest forces of forward motion if you let it be. You don't become less valuable because you fell. You don't lose your potential because you didn't succeed the first time. Those things are not affected by your results. What matters is what you do afterward. Do you learn, adjust, and keep going, or do you stop, retreat, and feel shame? One path moves you forward. The other traps you in a false story. Just because something ended in disappointment doesn't mean it ended your ability to grow. When you internalize failure, you carry it into everything you do. You start making choices based on fear of repeating the past. You hold back in conversations. You doubt your ideas. You hesitate to take action. And without realizing it, you start shrinking into a version of yourself that feels safer but less alive. That's what happens when you let failure become your identity. It's not the failure itself that limits you. It's the story you build around it. You need to tell a better story. One where setbacks are stepping stones, one where every mistake is a lesson. You are not defined by your worst times, but by how you recover from them. That's the only way to move forward without carrying old pain. Everyone falls, but not everyone learns to get back up strong. That takes self-awareness, that takes intention, that takes courage. If you rise after failing and try again with better understanding, you're not behind, you're ahead, because now you have more insight. You're building resilience. You're training your mind to stay calm during challenges. That's the kind of strength that lasts, not the kind that hides from failure, but the kind shaped by it. The kind that says, "I've faced hard things and I didn't quit." Every time you fail, you have a choice. You can hide from it or use it. You can pretend it didn't happen, or you can learn from it. You can be hard on yourself, or you can speak to yourself like someone who deserves help. That inner talk shapes your ability to grow. The more kindness you show yourself after a setback, the quicker you'll recover. Not because you're ignoring the problem, but because you're not letting it define who you are. You don't need to carry guilt just because something didn't work out. You don't owe the world perfection. What you owe yourself is the willingness to stay in the process, to take responsibility without shame, to look at what went wrong without letting it define your worth. That's how you grow from failure. By facing it directly without judgment and letting it shape your strategy, not yourself. There's a version of you that hasn't arrived yet, and you can't meet that version by staying where it's comfortable. You get there by going through things that test your limits, challenge your beliefs, and sometimes knock you down. That's the path. That's how you earn wisdom. Not by avoiding the fall, but by getting better at standing up after it. Failure isn't something to fear, it's something to understand. It shows you the gap between what you want and what you know or do now. That gap is where growth happens. But you can only grow if you stop seeing failure as proof that you're not enough. You are not your mistakes. You are the one who decides what they mean. If you treat every failure as a dead end, you'll give up too soon. If you treat it as a lesson, you'll know where to go next. No one wins without loss. No one grows without struggle. The most successful people have failed the most because they've tried the most things. Each time they came back wiser, more prepared, more grounded. That's the pattern that leads to lasting progress. It's available to you, but you have to see failure as a necessary part of becoming stronger, not as a reflection of your identity. Give yourself the freedom to fail forward. Let go of the pressure to be flawless. Focus on what you're learning, not just what you're achieving. The more you practice this thinking, the lighter your steps will feel. You won't carry so much fear into each choice. You'll move faster, you'll risk more, you'll recover quickly, and over time you'll realize something strong. Failure didn't break you. It made you better because you used it instead of running from it. Because you chose growth over shame, because you remembered that who you are is not what happened, but what you choose to do next. Chapter 12. Reset your focus by creating a simple morning routine. How you start your day has more power than most people know. The first hour after you wake up affects your ability to stay clear, present, and focused for the rest of the day. If you start the morning feeling scattered, scrolling, or rushed, that energy will affect your decisions. But if you begin your day with a steady routine, you create control and take charge of your time, mind, and direction. One of the best ways to reset your focus is to remove noise first thing in the morning. Don't grab your phone. Don't check messages or scroll through social media. You're teaching your brain to either react to the world or create your own. Choose creation. Give yourself a quiet moment to breathe, think, and be still. It might feel strange at first, especially if you're used to constant stimulation, but stillness is where clarity grows. You don't have to meditate for an hour or read a book every morning. Just spend a moment with yourself before the day pulls you in different ways. Maybe sit quietly with a glass of water, go outside for a minute, or write down one important thought. These small actions help calm your mind and focus on what really needs your attention. Focus isn't about doing more, but about doing less with intention. A simple routine helps you focus before distractions come. You start to protect your time more easily. You say yes more carefully and no without guilt because you started the day focusing on yourself, not others. When your morning begins with something that centers you, your choices later in the day come from a calmer place. You don't rush to solve problems. You don't jump from one task to another without finishing anything. You start to move with more awareness. That awareness is what creates consistent progress. It's not dramatic or loud. It's steady and clear. It comes from a mind that isn't clouded by urgency from the moment it wakes up. A simple routine also removes the pressure to always feel motivated. You don't need to feel inspired every morning to follow through. You just need a plan that's easy enough to repeat. When your routine is too complex, it falls apart under stress. But when it's built on a few solid actions, it becomes your anchor. Even when you feel tired, even when life feels uncertain, you still have a starting point. You might feel resistance at first. Changing your habits isn't easy, but this isn't about waking up earlier or being productive for the sake of it. It's about giving yourself the gift of intention. 5 minutes of clarity is better than 30 minutes of distraction. Start where you are. If you can only sit for a minute before grabbing your phone, start there. If you can stretch for 5 minutes or drink a glass of water mindfully, let that be enough. Build slowly. Don't expect perfection. Some mornings will feel off. Some days you'll fall back into old habits. That doesn't mean you failed. It just means you're human. What matters is that you come back to the routine again and again. Over time, your mind will begin to expect it. It will start preparing for focus as soon as you wake up. That's how change happens, not in one big breakthrough, but through steady repetition. You might notice that when your mornings are structured, you start making better choices throughout the day. You're more likely to stick to what matters. You waste less energy on things that don't. That's because your brain is no longer starting the day scattered. It has a path, and that path gives you a stronger grip on how you use your attention. If you often feel stressed, start by looking at your mornings. The first hour is your reset button. It's your chance to stop burnout and create a calm, focused start. You don't have to change everything at once, just focus on 1 or 2 habits that give you a moment of peace before the day begins. What works for one person might not work for another. Your routine should be something you look forward to, not something you dread. So design it around your own needs. If movement helps you wake up, stretch. If writing clears your mind, journal. If silence helps you relax, don't fill the air with noise. The goal isn't to copy someone else's routine, it's to create one that brings you back to yourself. A focused mind doesn't happen by accident. It's built with intention and kept by habit. And the more you respect that first part of your day, the more you take control of the rest of it. Don't wait for things to settle down before you find peace inside. Use your mornings to practice focus before tasks pile up. Your attention is your most valuable asset. Don't give it away before you decide how to use it. Let your mornings remind you of who you are before the world tries to tell you. Let them be a time where you're not catching up, but starting strong. This change affects everything, not instantly, but slowly, quietly, deeply. Start small, keep it simple, stay consistent, and believe that each focused morning builds a clearer, stronger you, one that doesn't need chaos to feel alive, but clarity to feel powerful. That version of you already exists. You just need a few quiet minutes each day to meet them. Chapter 13. Build mental toughness by staying calm under stress. Stress is a part of life you can't completely avoid. It shows up in hard conversations, unexpected news, tight deadlines, and moments when everything feels unsure. But how you respond in those moments is what shows your strength. Mental toughness isn't about being without feelings or unaffected. It's about keeping your balance when everything around you feels shaky. And that starts with learning how to stay calm when pressure rises. Calmness is a skill, not a personality trait. It's something you develop through practice. In moments of stress, your body reacts quickly. Your heart races, your thoughts speed up, and your breath shortens. If you don't notice this change, you get caught up in the reaction. You start to panic, overthink, lash out, or shut down. But if you learn to see the early signs, you can stop the spiral before it controls you. When something causes stress, the best thing to do is pause. Not for long, just enough to catch your breath and let your mind catch up with your feelings. That small gap between the trigger and your response gives you back control. You're not being dragged by the moment. You're choosing how to respond to it. That's where mental strength starts. Calm doesn't mean you don't feel the weight of the situation. It means you don't let the weight crush your clarity. Some of the strongest people are the ones who can sit with fear, frustration, or uncertainty without letting it control their next move. They aren't superhuman. They've just trained themselves to breathe before reacting, think before speaking, and wait before deciding. That discipline doesn't come from comfort. It comes from showing up again and again in moments of stress without giving in to chaos. Start by paying attention to your breath. When stress hits, your breath becomes shallow and fast. That sends a signal to your brain that you're in danger. But when you slow your breathing deep and steady, you're sending a different message. I'm safe. I'm in control. I can handle this. This change in breath can shift your entire mindset, even in the middle of a storm. It doesn't solve the problem, but it gives you the focus to face it with a clearer head. People often think mental toughness means pushing harder or doing more, but often it's about doing less. It's about not reacting emotionally to everything that demands your attention. It's about not getting pulled into every argument, not jumping at every problem, not needing to prove anything every time you're challenged. Strength is staying calm inside while the world moves around you. That calmness gives you power. You don't always need the perfect answer. You don't need to fix everything right away. You just need to stand firm and stay true to your values when the pressure builds. That's where real resilience is made. Not in the easy times, but in the moments when you feel stretched thin and still choose to stay steady. Some stress is loud and clear, but a lot of it builds quietly over time. The more you ignore it, the more it sneaks into your thoughts and habits. You start snapping at people. You lose patience quickly. You feel tired before the day even starts. That's why it's important to check in with yourself often. Ask, where am I carrying tension? Notice your jaw, your shoulders, your stomach. If your body is tight, your mind probably is too. Don't wait for a breakdown to reset. Take breaks during the day to let go of stress before it takes over. Staying calm under pressure isn't about doing nothing. It's about being thoughtful. It means you look at the situation clearly before reacting to feelings. Emotions are real but aren't always the best guides for action. A calm mind can notice emotions without letting them control everything. Mental toughness means staying logical when others break down under pressure. You don't need to hide your feelings. You need to learn to handle them without letting them affect everything else. You can feel fear and still keep going. You can feel frustration and still choose to be patient. You can feel overwhelmed and still take the next right step. Mental strength means moving forward with control despite struggles. One big change you can make is to stop seeing stress as a threat and start seeing it as a challenge. When you see something as a threat, your mind gets defensive. You shrink, panic, and try to escape. But when you see it as a challenge, your brain wakes up. You rise to face it. You become focused, not frantic. That change shifts the energy you bring to the situation. It shows you that stress isn't always your enemy. It can also be a sign that you are growing and building something important. You don't control everything that happens to you, but you always control your response. That truth gives you freedom. It means you're never fully at the mercy of your circumstances. You can train your mind to return to calm again and again, no matter how many times you get knocked off balance. It won't always be perfect, but each time you choose to breathe instead of explode, to reflect instead of react, to stay grounded instead of spiral, you're getting stronger. People who build mental toughness aren't special. They're consistent. They practice calmness daily, not just when things go wrong. They prepare for stress before it comes. They create habits that support their mind rest, movement reflection, so they don't reach the edge as easily. They set boundaries. They say no when needed. They don't pretend to be fine when they're not. But they don't let pain become their personality either. They feel everything and still show up with grace. You can do the same. You don't have to wait until you feel ready. You just have to start noticing how you respond to stress and decide to do one thing differently. Maybe it's how you breathe. Maybe it's the words you choose. Maybe it's how long you wait before reacting. Over time, these small shifts build a mind that doesn't break under pressure, but holds its shape and moves forward with clarity. And that kind of mind, that's where your real power lives. Chapter 14. Do hard things early before the day controls you. Most people wait until they feel motivated to do hard things, but motivation rarely comes when you need it. It comes and goes. If you wait for it, you'll keep putting off what matters. The truth is, your brain wants to avoid discomfort, and it's good at finding reasons why now isn't the right time. That's why starting your day with the hardest thing isn't just about being productive, it's about training your mind to face challenges. When you start your morning with something hard, you show yourself you are in charge. You're not being led by tasks, distractions, or moods. You're choosing to take control of your energy, your time, and your direction. That one early decision gives you momentum for the rest of the day with more strength and clarity. The hardest things are usually the ones we avoid because they make us face something uncomfortable. Maybe it's a task you've been putting off. Maybe it's a conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it's a personal goal that scares you, but the longer you delay it, the heavier it becomes. It sits in your mind, taking up space and draining your focus. You carry it all day, knowing it still needs to be done, and that weight slowly builds into stress. But if you flip it, if you take on that thing first thing in the morning, you free yourself from that mental drag. Suddenly, the rest of the day feels lighter. You don't have to fight against resistance anymore because you've already broken through it. You stop waiting for the right mood to begin and start using action to shift your mood. That's the power of doing the hard thing early. It sets your tone. This doesn't mean you have to wake up and tackle your entire to-do list. It means you choose one important and hard thing and tackle it before the day gets busy. That quiet time in the morning before texts, emails, and other interruptions is when your focus is strongest. It's when you're most likely to finish because nothing has distracted you yet. Use that time well, and you'll see how much power you've given away by waiting. The people who get ahead in life aren't always smarter or more talented. They've just made a habit of doing hard things without needing to feel ready. They don't question it. They don't argue with themselves. They wake up, start, and let the process shape their day. That kind of mental strength doesn't come from having everything figured out. It comes from choosing to be consistent over being comfortable. There's a difference between being busy and being purposeful. You can spend all day doing many simple tasks and still feel like you didn't achieve anything important. Or you can do one tough task in the morning and notice the difference it makes. This is the shift. Working with purpose, not just staying busy. Starting with hard tasks helps you focus on what really matters, because these often lead to real change. If you let the day decide how to use your energy, it will waste it with distractions. You'll end up reacting, solving urgent but unimportant problems, and by the end, your best energy is gone. The important task you needed to do is still waiting. Doing the hard task early is not just about being productive, it's about setting your direction before distractions take over. You can't control everything in a day, but you can control how you start it. That's your anchor. When you tackle the hardest task first, everything else gets easier. You've already shown yourself that you can handle tough things. This belief carries into the next task and the next. Your confidence comes from proof, not hype, and the best way to get that proof is by being there when it's toughest. Some mornings you'll feel like putting things off. You'll think, do it later, you're too tired, or it's not urgent. That voice is always loud before you grow. Your job isn't to argue with it, it's to act anyway. You don't need to feel motivated to start, you just need to move. Even a small step weakens the resistance, and once you begin, everything changes. The hardest part is starting. Once you take that first step, your mind shifts from avoiding to engaging. It starts solving problems instead of avoiding them. The discomfort you feared gets smaller. You see the task isn't as hard as you thought. It was avoiding it that made it seem that way, and knowing this strengthens your mindset each time. Think about how your life would change if every day you did just one thing that made you uneasy. Over time, you'd get better at handling discomfort, your confidence would grow, and you'd become better at dealing with pressure. You wouldn't get thrown off by stress or fear as easily, because each day you'd show yourself that you can do hard things and get stronger from them. The day will always try to take your focus, There will always be something urgent, easier, or louder, but those things rarely lead to progress. Progress comes from the thing you know you should be doing but haven't started yet. The thing that feels big, scary, or unclear. That's the one you need to face first, not because it's easy, but because it's needed. Every time you choose to do the hard thing early, you're forming a habit that changes your future. You're becoming a leader, not just reacting. You're building trust in yourself and creating a routine that keeps you steady even when the rest of the day is chaotic. You don't need a perfect system or a complicated plan. You just need to wake up, see what matters, and start with what challenges you most. That simple choice made daily can change not only your productivity, but your sense of purpose. Because when you stop waiting and start doing, you stop being controlled by time and start using time to build something real. Chapter 15. Challenge yourself weekly with one tough task. Most people go through their weeks doing what feels familiar. They stick to what's safe, what's easy, and what they already know. And they do it over and over, hoping for change. But growth doesn't come from staying in your usual routine. It starts when you break that routine and do something that challenges you. You don't need to change your whole life right away. You need one hard task each week that takes you out of your comfort zone and pushes you to try new things. The goal isn't to chase stress, but to face challenges with a clear purpose. That task might be different each week. Sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's mental, sometimes it's something you've been avoiding, but every time you do it, you're giving your mind and character a new chance to grow. You're not just getting better at the task, you're becoming a stronger person who doesn't back down when things get tough. You could keep doing what you've always done. You'll stay in control, feel less risk, and avoid failure. But you'll also stay stuck in the same patterns. You'll keep solving the same types of problems, thinking the same thoughts, and repeating the same results. And slowly, you'll start to lose the excitement in life. That's what happens when you stop being challenged. You stop feeling alive. You forget that you're capable of more than what you've settled into. Setting one hard task every week is a simple way to stop that drift. It brings purpose back into your routine. It makes you question what you've been avoiding and gives you a reason to face it. It reminds you that discomfort is where your potential grows. You don't have to face 100 challenges all at once, but if you can look at the next week and pick just one thing that demands more of you than before, you'll start to regain that sense of moving forward. Some weeks the task might be having a talk you've put off because you're scared of how it will go. Other weeks it might be saying no to something that drains your time or energy, even if it's hard to set that boundary. You might push yourself to learn a new skill, to fix a long-standing problem, or to make a choice that scares you. It doesn't matter what the task is. What matters is that it's real, that it takes some effort, that it makes you a bit nervous to even start. That's where growth lives, in that moment of hesitation, where your old self wants to run and your new self says, try. That weekly challenge becomes a mirror. It shows you where you're still holding back. It shows you where you need more courage, more clarity, or more self-respect. And once you finish it, even if you don't do it perfectly, you walk away with proof that you're not the same as you were a week ago. You've done something you couldn't do last time. You've grown. Progress isn't loud, it's quiet. It's hidden in choices most people don't see. It's earned in private, not shared for praise. That's why weekly challenges are so strong. They're not about showing off. They're about holding yourself to a higher level than the one you lived by last week. That builds momentum, and over time it changes how you see yourself. You begin to expect more from your time. You stop wasting hours on things that don't push you. You start looking for situations that teach you something new, rather than staying in comfort. You start making choices based on who you want to become, not just who you are now. And the amazing thing is, this shift doesn't need a big change in your schedule. It just needs the discipline to choose one hard thing and commit to finishing it, no matter what. It's not about being perfect, it's about being honest. If a task beats you this week, that's okay, you come back stronger the next. The point isn't to succeed every time. The goal is to keep facing difficult tasks without giving up. Confidence comes from showing yourself you don't quit when things get tough. It doesn't matter how long you've played it safe or waited for the perfect moment. All it takes is a decision to do one hard thing this week, then another next week, and so on. After enough weeks, you'll look back and see how much you've changed. Building this habit changes your mindset and identity. You stop asking if you can do it and start finding out. You stop avoiding challenges and start facing them. You stop reacting to life and start directing it. You don't need to announce it, get permission, or have a perfect plan. You just need the bravery to pick something real and take action on it, even if it feels weird or tough. Especially if it feels tough, because that's where the edge is, and the edge is where your next breakthrough lives. So look at your week, be honest with yourself. What's one thing you've been avoiding? What's one challenge that would stretch you just enough to feel the resistance, but not enough to break you? That's the one. Write it down, block time for it, and then do it. Chapter 16. Kill excuses by acting faster than you think. Most of the time, the problem isn't that we don't know what to do. The problem is that we hesitate. We hear the idea, we feel the urge, we see the chance. But instead of moving, we pause, we wait, we think. And in that gap between the impulse and the action, excuses slip in. They're quiet but convincing. You tell yourself it's not the right time. You tell yourself you're too tired, too unsure, not ready. And like that, the moment slips away. What could be done in 5 minutes now becomes a weight you carry all day. The more you do this, the more you teach yourself that hesitation is safer than action. But there's another way to live. It's quicker, sharper, and more honest. It starts when you stop letting your mind talk you out of what you know is right. When you feel the urge to act. You don't analyze, you don't overthink, you don't ask for more time, you just move. That speed, however small, cuts through the noise. It doesn't give fear time to grow. It doesn't give doubt a chance to build. It closes the door before excuses can start. You don't need to wait for motivation or energy. You don't need a full plan. What you need is a moment of bravery before your mind fills with reasons not to act. Once you start moving, even a little, momentum builds. You begin the task, make the call, get out of bed, press record. Once you're in motion, everything changes. You're no longer stuck in hesitation. You're moving forward. And that's where clarity and strength are. Think about how many moments you've lost to overthinking. Not hours, moments, seconds. But those seconds became minutes, then hours, then whole days, where nothing important got done. Now imagine what could change in your life if you acted on your good instincts before your mind could stop you. That's the real discipline, not working harder or planning more, but acting before excuses take over. You can't get rid of hesitation completely. You're human. Your mind will always try to keep you comfortable. It will always push you toward what you know. But you can train yourself to stop letting hesitation win. Most people lose their battles before they even start. They lose because they hesitate. They think about all the things that could go wrong. They let their minds create problems that haven't happened yet. But if you act quickly, you don't give those imagined problems power. Excuses can't survive movement. They depend on stillness. They feed on waiting, planning, and perfectionism. But when you act quickly, you cut off their oxygen. You give yourself the advantage. You catch your resistance off guard. And the more you do it, the less power your excuses have over you. They still show up, but you don't listen to them anymore. You've shown that they are just noise. Noise that fades the second you take the first step. This doesn't mean rushing through life. It means deciding faster and doing what matters without delay. You usually know what needs to be done. The problem is the extra minutes you spend avoiding it. The longer you think, the louder your inner resistance becomes. But when you act fast, you don't get stuck in the loop of overthinking. You get to the part where results happen. Results come from doing, not thinking. This approach changes how you see yourself. You stop seeing yourself as someone who delays, hesitates, or needs to feel ready. You become someone who moves, trusts their instincts, and respects their time enough not to waste it on fake fears. That's a powerful shift. Because once you believe that fast action is your default, you stop negotiating with your weaker self. You stop giving energy to thoughts that never deserved your attention in the first place. The reason this works is because you're not fighting yourself anymore. You're moving before the fight begins. You're acting while the idea is still fresh, before fear can kill it. And in that gap, between the thought and the action, that's where all your excuses try to live. Close that gap, and the excuses die before they can grow. This doesn't mean being careless. It means being honest. Honest about how often your delays are just fear in disguise. Honest about how many chances you've missed because you waited too long. And honest enough to say, from now on, I won't let my excuses have that kind of power. From now on, I act. Not tomorrow, not when I feel ready, right now, in this moment. Because the more I wait, the less I trust myself. But the more I move, the more I show myself that I am in control. Not my fears, not my doubts, not my old habits. You don't need to be faster than everyone else. You just need to be faster than your excuses. That's the race that matters. Every time you beat them, even by a second, you get stronger. You become the kind of person who doesn't freeze when it's time to act. You become someone others can count on. But more importantly, you become someone you can count on. Start with something small. The next time you think, stop thinking. Move. Do it. Don't give yourself a speech. Don't scroll through your phone. Don't tell yourself you'll do it in 10 minutes. Just act and feel what that moment does to your confidence. Feel how it changes your relationship with hesitation. One decision at a time. That's how you build a different future. That's how you break the loop of overthinking. That's how you silence the part of you that always wants to wait. You act faster than you think, you close the gap, you stop the delay, and you take control of your time, your focus, and your life. Chapter 17. Raise your standards by expecting more from yourself. Most people don't fail because they're not talented enough. They fail because they allow too much from themselves. They accept weak effort. They let themselves take it easy. They lower the bar when things get hard. But the truth is, your life will only rise to the level of standards you set for yourself. Not the goals you write down, not the dreams you talk about, but the minimum level of behavior you allow from yourself every single day. That's where change starts, not with inspiration, but with expectation. If you want more, you have to expect more from yourself first. You have to stop accepting things from yourself that fall below the level of the life you claim to want. It's easy to point to circumstances. It's easy to blame the economy, the timing, the people around you. But if you're honest, you'll see that the real limits are internal. The truth is, most of your frustration comes from knowing you're not living at your highest level. You don't need anyone else to call you out. You know when you're cutting corners. You know you can do more, but still choose to do less. That quiet feeling, that's the voice you need to listen to. That's the level you need to reach. It's not about being perfect. It's about not letting yourself repeat the same lazy habits and then wondering why nothing changes. Raising your standards doesn't mean being hard on yourself. It means being honest. It means deciding that you won't keep accepting behaviors from yourself that you wouldn't accept from someone else who said they were serious. It's about fixing the small things, the shortcuts, the unfinished tasks, the promises you break to yourself and act like they don't matter, because they do matter. Every time you let yourself off the hook, you weaken the trust you have in your own word. And when you stop believing yourself, everything else falls apart. You start raising your standards by getting tired of your own excuses. You stop waiting to feel motivated. You stop blaming others. You realize that you are the one responsible for improving your life. No one else can do it for you. Once you accept this, things become clearer. The path is simple. Stop doing things that are beneath you. Start acting like the person you want to be right now. What you accept is what you continue. If you accept average effort, you'll get average results. If you let your weaker urges make decisions, you'll stay at the level of your excuses, and that's the hard truth. Most people don't need more knowledge, they need to raise their personal standards. They need to expect more from themselves, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. You don't raise your standards by shouting or writing them down. You raise them by doing what you say you'll do, consistently, quietly, without seeking attention. You stop avoiding the hard parts. You stop lowering your effort because no one's looking. You don't let your feelings control you. You start expecting to show up fully, even when you don't want to, because that's what separates people who make real progress from those who just talk about it. There's a kind of pride that comes from this way of living. Not arrogance, but strength. You begin to carry yourself differently when you know you won't let yourself off the hook so easily. Your confidence doesn't come from pretending you have it all together. It comes from knowing that your word means something to you. It comes from building a track record with yourself. And that feeling of being dependable to yourself is what allows you to demand more from life, because you're finally giving more to yourself. Raising your standards isn't about doing the impossible. It's about no longer tolerating the avoidable. The messes you've ignored, the laziness you've called self-care, the lack of preparation you've named spontaneity. All of it adds up, and once you stop pretending those things don't matter, you can start to fix them, not in one day, but one step at a time. You don't need to make big changes overnight, but you do need to stop accepting things that go against your better self. You need to stop making choices that hurt your future. Every time you choose comfort over commitment, you pay a price. Maybe not right away, but in time the results will show it. So instead of asking for better results, ask for more from yourself. Ask for a stronger effort. Ask for deeper focus. Ask for habits that show someone who takes their life seriously. There is nothing magical about people who achieve more. They've just learned how to ask more from themselves before anyone else does. They don't need constant motivation because their drive comes from within. Their efforts aren't influenced by the weather or their mood. They've trained to show up no matter what, and that's what makes the difference over time. That's what turns good intentions into real results. You have more potential than you think. But potential is useless if it stays within your comfort zone. You unlock it by expecting more from yourself, not with pressure, but with focus, by deciding each day to prove what you're really made of and then actually doing it. Not just once, but until it becomes your new habit. This is a process. It's not about never slipping, but noticing when you do and correcting quickly. It's about becoming someone who doesn't just drift through life, but fully participates to make things change. It's about choosing to be the kind of person whose effort matches their goals. The more you live this way, the more natural it feels. You stop looking for shortcuts because you want to be someone who can handle the long journey. You don't raise your standards to impress anyone. You do it because you're tired of feeling stuck. You do it because you know your potential deserves better than your current habits. Most of all, you do it because you're ready to stop lying to yourself about what you can do. You're ready to stop settling. You're ready to stop coasting. You're ready to step up. That's when everything changes. The moment you decide you will no longer live below your own potential, not for another day, not because someone told you to, but because you finally had enough. Enough of being lazy, enough of cutting corners, enough of making excuses. You're done. From now on you expect more, and because you expect more, you will do more. And because you do more, you will become more. That's how it works. That's how it starts, with one strong, quiet decision. I will no longer accept less than my best. Chapter 18. Force progress by keeping promises you make alone. No one else hears the promises you whisper to yourself at night. No one cheers when you say, "I'll start tomorrow." No one checks if you followed through on the goals you set in silence. That's what makes those private promises so powerful. They're the ones that show you who you really are, not who you pretend to be around others, not who you act as in public, but who you are when no one is watching, and there's nothing to gain except self-respect. Keeping promises you make alone is how you force progress. Not because someone is pushing you, not because someone is watching you, but because you've decided your promise to yourself finally matters. It's easy to keep promises when people are looking. External accountability is everywhere. Bosses, deadlines, expectations. But the promises that shape your future are the ones no one knows about. They don't get applause. They don't have witnesses. They don't have pressure. And that's why most people break them without thinking. It's easier to let yourself down in private because it doesn't seem to cost much at the moment. But over time, it costs everything. It costs your momentum, your belief in yourself, your ability to trust your own voice. Progress doesn't come from big announcements. It comes from private discipline. It comes from the quiet hours where no one checks in, but you still show up. You said you'd wake up early. Did you? You said you'd stop procrastinating. Did you? You said you'd stop making excuses and start doing things. Did you really do it? Or did you just say it because it sounded nice? The gap between your words and actions is where your future is made. Every broken promise makes that gap bigger. Every kept promise makes it smaller. In the end, the only way to move forward is to let your actions speak louder than your words. Most people get stuck not because they can't do it, but because they keep making deals with themselves. They treat their personal promises like they're optional. They keep picking short-term comfort over long-term growth. But here's the truth. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken your inner strength. You tell your brain that your own word can't be trusted. And the more you do that, the harder it gets to believe in your ability to follow through, even when you're serious. But when you start keeping those quiet promises, something begins to change. You don't just make progress, you become progress. You stop waiting for motivation and build momentum instead. You stop needing to explain yourself because your results speak for you. There's a kind of unshakable power that comes from showing up for yourself consistently, not loudly, not dramatically, just with steady, quiet action. You stop trying to impress and start trying to improve, and that's where things begin to move. Keeping your own promises is how you learn to trust yourself again. It's how you show your own mind that you're someone who follows through. You stop second-guessing your plans because you've trained yourself to act on them. And even when the results aren't immediate, the process begins to work, because what matters isn't what you achieve today. It's what you become by keeping the commitment. The goal isn't to feel accomplished every day. It's to become the kind of person who refuses to leave themselves behind again. You'll have times when quitting seems easier, when no one would know if you stopped early or avoided the tough parts. But those are the moments where real growth happens. That's when you either build your discipline or weaken it. That's when you either show yourself that your word matters or remind yourself that it doesn't. And if you want to be the person you say you want to be, then those small decisions, the ones no one sees, become everything. There's a different kind of freedom that comes when you stop needing approval. When you don't rely on reminders, when your drive doesn't come from fear of being judged, but from a deep inner standard you've set for yourself. And it starts when you tell yourself, I don't break promises to me anymore. I don't care who's watching. I don't care who notices. This isn't about performance, it's about progress. My word means something now, especially when it's spoken quietly. You don't need more motivation, you need to stop making excuses for yourself. Stop waiting for the perfect conditions. Stop trying to feel ready. Stop using the lack of recognition as a reason to quit. You need to follow through because you said you would. Stop lying to yourself about tomorrow. Start showing up today, right now, even if things are messy. Don't wait for applause or comfort. This isn't about becoming a robot. It's about becoming someone whose actions match their values. Someone who no longer lives between intention and action. Understand that the gap between where you are and where you want to be will never close unless you take your private commitments seriously. If you keep waiting for others to hold you accountable, you'll wait forever. But if you hold yourself accountable, nothing can stop you. That's how you make progress. You close the gap between your intentions and your actions. You build a habit of showing up, no matter how small the task, no matter how tired you are. You build trust one action at a time. One early morning where you get up instead of snoozing. One workout you complete even when you don't feel like it. One choice to finish the task instead of postponing it. And suddenly momentum starts to work for you instead of against you. Self-respect doesn't come from what you promise in public. It comes from what you do in private. It's not about being perfect. It's about no longer accepting your own lies. You know when you can do more. You know when you're being lazy. You know when you're skipping steps. And every time you catch yourself and choose better, you're building a stronger person, someone more reliable, someone you're proud to be. There's no secret to progress. It's made in quiet decisions no one cheers for, in promises that don't get noticed, in silent moments where you say, I said I'd do it, so I'm doing it. That's where change begins. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. Not in the celebration, but in the unseen effort. And the more you keep your promises when no one's watching, the stronger you become when everyone is. Chapter 19. Practice self-control by delaying what feels good now. Most people live by what feels good right now. They chase comfort, distraction, and easy pleasure because it's fast and feels good in the moment. But that kind of life keeps you stuck. You won't build anything meaningful by always chasing what feels good. Growth starts when you decide that feeling good can wait. When you choose discipline over indulgence, you take control of your path. When you delay what feels good now, you build a future you won't want to escape from. Self-control isn't about being strict or cold. It's about knowing what's more valuable, short-term pleasure or lasting strength. Most temptations aren't dangerous because they're big. They're dangerous because they're small. 5 more minutes scrolling, 1 more excuse to skip the hard part, 1 more indulgence you say you'll make up for later. It's those small choices that quietly steer your life off course, not the big ones. Practicing self-control means catching yourself in those small moments and making a different choice. One that aligns with your long-term goals instead of your short-term feelings. When you choose to delay comfort, you're teaching your mind to follow your values instead of your urges. This is where true power comes from, not from force, not from motivation, but from always doing what's right, even when it's inconvenient, boring, or uncomfortable. Strength is built in the small, everyday choices that no one sees. Saying no when no one would blame you for saying yes. Holding back when no one would notice if you gave in. You won't always want to do the right thing. That's not weakness, that's normal. But if you wait to feel like it, you'll wait forever. The real test is what you do when you don't feel like it. When you're tired, when you're irritated, when pleasure is tempting you and no one's stopping you, that's when discipline either grows or fades. That's when you either overcome your urges or let them control you. Most people don't fail because they can't do it. They fail because they choose the easy path too often and call it balance. Enjoyment isn't bad. The problem is when it controls you. Being able to wait for what feels good now is the difference between a life that feels good now and one that really goes somewhere. Because anything worth having takes time, effort, and sacrifice. You can't make room for those things if your time is filled with quick pleasures that leave you empty later. Self-control is about making room for better things, not letting comfort take over your life. You'll always have the option to take the easy way, to eat what's simple, to do what's known, to say, just for today, even though you said it yesterday too. But when you start saying no, not because you dislike yourself, but because you care about your future, you begin to act differently. You stop reacting and start making choices. You stop following your urges and become someone who controls their life intentionally. Delaying gratification doesn't feel thrilling, it feels calm. It feels like restraint when everyone else is indulging. But that's exactly why it works. While others are spending their energy on what they want now, you're investing in who you want to become. While they're chasing ease, you're building the kind of self-respect that only comes from doing what's hard. And over time, the gap between you and them grows. Not because you're better, but because you made better choices for longer. You'll never feel proud of yourself for giving in to something that held you back. You might feel good for a moment, but it always fades. What stays is the regret, the disappointment, the sense that you gave away your power. But every time you wait for what you want, every time you avoid the easy way, you gain something that lasts longer than a want. You gain confidence. You show yourself that you're stronger than the voice that says, just this once. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes to hear that voice and keep going anyway. Some days will be harder than others. Some moments will test you more than you expect. But self-control isn't about being perfect. It's about being steady. It's about remembering that every time you choose growth over comfort, you're getting stronger, even if you don't see it yet. You don't need to be extreme. You just need to be steady. You just need to hold on a little longer. And when you fall short, and you will, you don't let that be a reason to stop. You reset, you go back to your values, and you keep going. The hardest part of self-control is that no one claps for it. No one cheers for you when you put off the cookie, when you avoid the distraction, when you choose not to take the easy path. But that's what makes it strong. You're doing it because you decided you matter. Your goals matter. Your future matters more than this moment. That kind of clear thinking changes how you live. It changes how you show up. You stop needing others to keep you on track because you become your own guide. When you live with self-control, you don't just manage your impulses, you start to shape who you are. You're no longer someone who just reacts to whatever life throws at you. You become someone who responds with purpose, someone with vision, someone who makes choices with the future in mind. And while that might not feel rewarding today, it creates a life filled with results, not just reasons. There's no trick to this. You don't need more hacks. You don't need more motivation. You need to stop letting short-term pleasure stop you from long-term progress. You need to look past comfort and see what it's really costing you. Every time you say yes to what feels good now, you might be saying no to the person you want to be. If you keep making that choice, you will never reach your full potential. Being able to wait for rewards shows you have power. When you can choose your actions instead of being controlled by them, you've already succeeded. You've moved from living by feelings to living with purpose. The more you practice this, the stronger your control becomes. It won't feel exciting, but over time, it will feel right. It will feel like strength. It will feel like freedom. When the time comes, and it always will, where you want to give in, ask yourself, what am I really giving up by saying yes to this? What future am I putting on hold? And more importantly, who am I becoming every time I make this choice? That is the real question. Not how strong your craving is, but how serious you are about building a life you're proud of. Because if you want to grow, you have to delay what feels good now. Not forever. Just long enough to let something better come up in its place. Chapter 20. Earn confidence by doing the hard thing repeatedly. Confidence is not something you find by chance. It is earned through consistent action, especially when that action involves doing what feels hard or uncomfortable. Every time you choose the hard path and follow through, you build a foundation of trust in yourself that no outside compliment or achievement can replace. This trust becomes the backbone of your confidence, making it stronger and more reliable over time. Confidence grows not because you avoid struggle, but because you face it head-on again and again until it becomes part of who you are. Doing hard things repeatedly is the real training ground for courage. When you push through discomfort and choose to keep going, you send a clear message to your brain: I am capable, I am strong. The more you prove this to yourself, the less intimidating challenges become. Instead of fearing the unknown or avoiding difficult tasks, you begin to see them as opportunities to reinforce your strength. Confidence isn't about never feeling fear or doubt. It's about choosing action despite those feelings and building proof of your resilience. The key is consistency. One hard effort can give you a burst of motivation, but only repeated effort builds lasting confidence. Each time you confront difficulty, you lay down new neural pathways in your brain that make future challenges easier to face. This change doesn't happen quickly, but with regular practice, you start to move from escaping hard tasks to facing them with confidence. Your identity starts to match persistence and strength because your actions show those traits. It's important to remember that hard doesn't mean impossible. It means uncomfortable, new, or challenging enough to push your limits. It could be waking up early, handling a tough project, having a hard talk, or sticking to a healthy habit when you want to give up. These actions stretch you. They push you out of your comfort zone where confidence can't grow. While the first tries might feel shaky or discouraging, the momentum from showing up again and again makes those actions easier over time. Confidence gained this way is strong because it is based on experience. It is not based on outside approval, luck, or short-term success. When you earn your confidence through hard work over and over, it becomes part of who you are. You don't need to show it to others because you know what you've been through. This confidence inside you helps you stay calm when things are tough, take risks when needed, and keep going when things go wrong. It's a quiet strength that doesn't seek attention, but earns respect. Facing hard things often also teaches humility. You understand that success is not a one-time thing, but a journey with ups and downs. You learn to enjoy the process, not just the result. Each tough task you finish adds to your skills and mental strength. You become more flexible and less scared of failing because you know you can bounce back and try again. This mindset is what real confidence is about, not arrogance, but a solid belief in your ability to handle anything that comes your way. Building confidence by doing hard things changes how you deal with discomfort. Instead of avoiding it, you see it as a sign of growth. You welcome the challenge because you know comfort zones limit your potential. Each hard moment increases your strength and shows your resilience. This doesn't mean seeking pain or suffering without reason, but knowing that growth needs struggle and accepting it. A common mistake is waiting to feel confident before facing hard challenges. This is wrong. Confidence comes from action, not before it. Waiting for the perfect moment only delays progress and lets doubt grow. Real growth starts when you do the hard thing, even if you're scared or uncertain. Each success builds on the last, creating a chain of experience that boosts your confidence. If you wait to feel ready, you may never start. But if you begin, even with a small step, confidence will grow. To build this habit, set clear, doable challenges for yourself and stick to them often. Don't just do what's easy or handy, pick tasks that push you. This might mean spending time on hard learning, pushing physical limits, or facing tough truths in relationships. What matters is not perfection, but persistence. Keep doing the hard things, and you will slowly but surely boost your self-belief. Celebrate the small wins along the way, but don't let them stop you from growing. Confidence is not a goal, but an ongoing journey of proving yourself right when doubt creeps in. Each act of bravery makes you see yourself as someone who doesn't back down. It trains your brain to expect success because you earned it through action, not just hoping. Doing hard things repeatedly builds confidence and frees you from the fear of failure. You learn to trust your ability to handle challenges, adapt and improve. This trust changes your approach to life. You take action rather than waiting for permission or reassurance. You accept responsibility rather than making excuses. You move forward clearly because you know you've built a strong foundation for your goals. Choosing to do hard things often is a promise to yourself. It shows that your growth is more important than temporary comfort. The discomfort you feel now is the cost for the strength you'll have later. When you keep this promise, confidence becomes your everyday reality.